to see the session.
Okay, I just hit
Yeah, that was
record.
nice too. I like that. That was good too. I would have liked it.
Bill, I had a question. Since I came online here 10 minutes prior to the official start time at 10, does the 40-minute clock start running when I came on, or does it
Starts
start at
running
10?
at 10 o'clock.
Okay, so we're not cheating ourselves out of 10 minutes by chatting early here. Good.
Yeah,
Hey,
look up
Rod.
in the upper right-hand corner. We're 15 or 16 seconds into it right now.
I
Oh.
think I saw something that they're not imposing the time limit during the COVID thing. Did anybody else see that?
Yeah,
That's
they
been-
did earlier, but now they're cutting you off like crazy.
Oh,
I
are
had-
they? Okay.
Okay, the party's
Yesterday
over.
I did a meeting, Wednesday I did a meeting, it was exactly 40 minutes, and I said, I'll do another one. And then it took a long time to get that working, and then it was cut off again, really.
We've got some people coming in, Rod, that need you to click on their image.
Oh, really? I have to click on it?
No, they do.
Oh,
Oops,
let's see.
I just lost everyone.
We're still here.
Yes.
I don't know what happened.
Probably have another app came up in front of you. X out that app.
No, I'm not seeing anybody. I'm just saying scheduling make easy. What the heck just happened?
That's something else.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a minute.
Having
Okay.
trouble getting a few people to come up on video. Kim, Linda, and Robert. I've got their names without any
Okay, there I
image.
am. Okay,
And
I'm
Maybe
back.
they didn't, they have to turn their video on.
that's what I'm hoping it's on their side of the,
It was on,
Positive.
you know.
okay.
Do you have
Great.
Tom?
Got Tom. Yes. Good morning.
I don't
There's Bob.
Good morning.
Linda. Good
Linda.
morning.
Hi,
Morning to
Linda.
all. Hi. Kim has yet to come up on video. Maybe she's with us on audio. Super. Nice turnout here. We've got a couple minutes here before we get rolling.
Ed's here, but he's not at the screen.
Okay. As I was mentioning to Bill earlier, I didn't receive, we got an enormous participation with images for this. So thank you to everyone. And several people submitted 2 images. Based on the number of submissions, I put the second images, if you submitted 2, at the back of the pack. We probably won't get to them realistically. And then this morning, just minutes before I got on, I saw an email from Bill passing me images from Barbara Chuko and Deb Haller. And again, they were so late coming that, at least to me, that there's just no way I could throw them into the mix yet. So keep them for next time maybe, and throw them back at us. I'm sure we'll have another critique session along the way.
Got it sitting here in the room. You can look at it.
Okay, yeah, it's more of a time thing. I have the
Yeah.
image, but I put them on a black screen and put the name by them, and that doesn't take too long. But the sheer number of people that had already submitted kind of make it impractical to honestly get to everybody this
When do
time
you
around.
want them by?
Well, when Bill asked for them last Monday, I think the first time maybe, or a week ago Friday, a little more than a week ago, it's kind of a first come when we have a big turnout like this, first come, first serve sort of situation. We're blessed that so many people want to participate. That's great.
Mine weren't plein air anyway, so that's okay.
They don't have to be, I think we learn obviously from all types of artwork, all genres. It's very educational. Everybody
Yeah,
learns,
but-
not just the person that we're,
We had about 25 images submitted, and
Yeah.
we'll probably try to go through those as many as we can. We'll save the rest of them for the
sure,
next session.
exactly. Yes. Right. And if you do 2 or 3 minutes per and have a nice supporting chat on it, the time flies right by. So why don't we get started here? I think we'll get some more people filtering in or wandering in. I still don't have video for Kim, but maybe she can see what we're doing here. So we'll start with, I'll just go to my screen and start showing some of
She
those.
just came up. She just
Oh,
came up.
perfect. Welcome, Kim. Let's see. We will go to, no,
Is that cereal good, Lynn?
that's not what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
Okay.
Ah.
Here we go. Let's see. Where was I? Oh, I got to go to share screen. That's right. Very good. Okay. And I don't think my first person is here. Christine is not with us.
Yes, she is.
Oh,
Yes, she's
good.
there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I ran out of screen space. Okay, Christine, I'll do the first one. Bill's going to pitch in too here along the way.
Look at, starting to the paintings.
I don't know why it moved. Okay, I do know why it moved there. Let's see if I can go back. Sorry about that. No. Okay, great. Super. I'm going to try that again. Let's do this. Okay. Yeah. Let me try this again. There we go. Okay. And I'll go to full screen.
Talking.
And there we go. We're back where we started. Stop touching my mouse. This is watercolor, I believe, Christine?
Right. Yes.
Okay. Would you like to tell us a little bit about it? You know, the subjects. Is this a family photo reference or some other reference?
Right. It's a picture. I had some great aunts, and this was probably taken around 1920. And there was just something about the photo with the two little kids on the porch that I wanted to paint last year. So that's how it came about. It was a challenge too. So I did the best I could to present them.
Good. Nice job. Yeah, there's a lot going on here in terms of textures as a challenge. And anytime you add the human figure or an animal figure, that just elevates the challenge too for most of us. I think what you did with the people and the dog are really nice. And I say that because you didn't get too fussy with the details. A lot of times when you add a new element or a harder element like that, it's easy to get really bogged down, and the rest of the concept, the rest of the composition can suffer. So I like that you kept it fairly simplistic on rendering the people, and it doesn't look like you got too bogged down on it. And there's nothing that's really detracting in there either. So good for you. Well done on that account.
Thank you.
And overall, we certainly know what the focal area is. It's easy to pick because humans and animals included in a composition really will gravitate the eye and make a stronger focal area or an easier task in getting a focal area for your image. The values around them are supporting them too, because they're light and most of the values around them are darker, medium to darker values. So the focal area really pops out. It's strong in that regard. If I wanted to pick at some areas that probably need some extra emphasis and clear up some confusion, I'd start with the steps, and the drawing of the steps probably could be worked on a little bit. They've been rendered as if you're looking at eye level at each step, when in fact the porch floor, you're clearly higher than the porch floor, so you're higher than the steps. It just doesn't read very clearly, I guess is what I'm trying to say, in the step area.
Okay.
And perhaps off on the right side in the background too, I have a little visual confusion there as well as to what that railing is doing, where it's coming from. I like the angle of the railing. It's pointing right towards the focal areas, as are some of the muted blue shadows in the background on the face of the house. They're kind of headed down, converging on the figures too. So that's a good idea going there as well. Does anybody else have any thoughts here?
I think I would eliminate the bottom two steps. I just,
Mhm.
that whole bottom third of the painting is such a big space, and it's really strong. And I think it detracts from the focal point. You just, I don't know,
Thank you.
take your hand and just cover up those bottom two steps and just leave the top
Thank
step.
Mhm.
And, you know, look how much, how stronger the painting is, and look how much you really, your attention is brought to the figures more.
Mhm.
It's just, it's kind of heavy at the bottom, I think.
Hopefully, most of us do that where we consider changes and we take our hand and block out a whole section of an image, recrop it, if you will, or if there's something that's distracting in the image, we might even take fingers or a fist up and kind of lay it over that area and see if we get an idea of what it would look like without that. So yeah, I think that's a good point. Good. Definitely. Well, we'll move on to the next image here. This is Diana. Is Diana with us?
No, she has to work on Saturdays.
Okay, all right. Picture's a little out of focus. We won't talk about images if the person's not here. And let's see. Bill, do you want to take a crack at this painting by Rich?
This is Rich's painting where they depicted a scene. Looks like it might be over in Pennsylvania someplace, maybe over around Perryopolis. I particularly like the way the road leads into it. It kind of tells you that you'd like for you to come into the painting. His choice of sky treatment, I think, is an add to the painting. It has the feel of a nice sunny day. As a result of that, the trees have the highlight on the sunny side. And without that field in the midground, the painting might lack a whole lot. So the road leads us in. We have the lovely field there with the yellow, and then that same value and color in some of the trees, and a little bit off in the distance, which shows you that the sun is shining on the distant hillside. So, Rich, I know you're on here someplace. Where was this? No, I guess he doesn't have his sound turned on, maybe.
Let's see what he's doing here. It doesn't show him muted, but okay.
Okay.
Does anybody else want to add any comments?
I love the texture in the painting. You see the brush strokes in the sky and the hills and the trees. I think it really adds to that, gives it a lot more excitement and movement.
And in general, we don't see a lot of texture amongst the COPA group, myself included. Rich is one of the few people that consistently adds texture in his images. So that's something probably for us all to think about. It's one more element, especially if you're an oil painter, obviously. The other mediums don't lend themselves to that, but oil paint does, and it's something to consider.
I'd like to see the shape in the lower right-hand corner. Because the value doesn't get darker as it recedes, it tends to flip up a bit. I agree with everything everybody else has said. And of course, that's the thing I love about his work is the texture and use of color. It's just that lower right hand, I'm not convinced it goes back into the space.
Good point.
Now, the road seems to drop down instead of coming toward you at the front, the bottom.
I don't know. I think it's a really strong composition.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I think the edge between the road and that shape in the bottom right, had that been softer or a little blurrier as you went back in the picture, that might have solved that problem. Just a couple of marks, you know, And it doesn't really bother me though, that, you know.
The tree in the middle seems too much in the middle to me. It just, your eyes just get glued to it.
Okay, we'll move along here. And great, I'm having trouble moving on here. There we go. Okay. Is Elizabeth with us? Don't think she is. Scanning the names here. Okay. Let's see. We'll move on to, great. Bill, here's Bill's. And correct
Nice.
me if I'm wrong, Bill, but this is a pastel?
It's
Piece?
pastel in the studio.
Okay. A lot of good animation going on with the pastels, particularly in the background textures, and I think it's really helpful that you carried some of that texture into the foreground and the cloth dropping over too, because it's great to see a little animation, but if it's only in one area, it can be a little odd, and if it's everywhere, it can be a little overwhelming. But it seems like a nice balance in a couple of different areas, and you see it in the oranges as well. So I think that works to your advantage, and that's something pastels can do a little more easily than some of the other mediums too, especially when you're working on such a dark background like you are here. It looks like it's almost black.
Yes, that's yours. It's black paper. They call it dark paper, but it's actually very close to black.
I had to change the background to a gray instead of a black because, as I did for the other images, because when I did that, it was like, well, it wasn't flattering to it. So let's put it that way. I just lost everything. It was like the objects and the lights were just floating in a dark space. But with the gray around it, you see the black to its full advantage. A couple of things I would point out, design-wise, with the oranges, to me, it's a little boring that they're all three same circles and stacked together in a pyramid. I'd rather see some other kind of, a little bit of variation in the placement of the three oranges in relation to one another. And the other thing about the oranges is because they're masked that way, they're starting to come close to the same visual mass as the vase, excuse me. So we're starting to get into a little bit of a too balanced composition maybe, and the oranges could be a little more interestingly placed, in my opinion. And something you've done really well with the vase base on the table around the edge of the base of the vase is you've incorporated some of the reflective colors from the vase onto the table. And then when I look at the oranges, I don't see that happening there. The white around the oranges doesn't go into shadow, and it doesn't, there's a little bit of orange maybe in the front, but I think there should be a lot more orange reflecting onto the surface. Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
The branch that goes from the oranges to the base, it kind of partly goes in front of it and partly behind it. I'm not sure what that is. The angled or whatever that branch is in the background, it overlaps the vase in the front, so a little confusing.
I think it's very helpful that the branch is on an angle like that. The image could turn a bit static if the branch wasn't on an angle and this cloth in front wasn't so offset like that. It really adds a lot more energy to the painting to go along with all that texture.
I like the effect with the black peeking through. It gives it a lot of energy.
Okay, we'll move on to the next image. Keep trying to get some people in here. And this is, Bill, do you want to take a turn at this?
Sure. Tom is on with us, and Tom's been doing a good bit with abstract patterns and use of abstract colors. I happened to visit with he and his wife here a while back and got to see firsthand some of these paintings, and this is a whole new area of endeavor for Tom. It's always interesting to see what an artist might do with abstract, how they develop the actual patterns, what they do with them, their choice of colors. And I think he's done a good job here with composition of pulling us into the painting and having enough structures in the thing, in the painting itself, to make us wonder just exactly what are those. And then someone said about a abstract painting, said, well, I don't understand it. Well, what is it? And said, well, it's what you want it to be. Well, that's not really true either. The artist has tried to lead you into seeing something with a choice of colors, patterns, the way things flow. And I think Tom's doing a really great job. Some of these early abstracts were efforts that he tried to do something special with, and I think he's getting into the flow of it now. So good job, Tom.
Thank you, Bill. You might be interested to know that that's a gold leaf in the middle of the three dots that pop sort of in the middle of the painting are done with gold leaf.
Super.
What is the rest of the paint?
It's
Acrylic?
acrylic.
Oh, okay.
I've spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos from about abstract painting, and I have found them to be very helpful.
Have you looked at Kandinsky's, any videos on Kandinsky?
Kandinsky?
Yeah.
No, that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, he was like the first or one of the early pioneers of abstract painting.
I think it's very clever that you have in the lower right-hand side, you have that big pink space shape, but you brought the black or the dark color into that bright pink and repeated the shape. So it's like a reverse. Very clever.
Yeah, I have a comment, not so much about this particular painting, but about abstract painting. Somebody said, that people look at it and say, what is it? The whole idea of abstract painting is taking those principles and elements of design and eliminating subject matter, but using, those elements. Like when we look at a landscape, for example, we say things about movement and we talk about, space and shape and things like that. It's the same thing, only without a subject that you can give a name to.
Yes. Yes.
And something else that Tom has done well, that's a good lesson for any image maker that wants something to be interesting is, well, you look at all the colors he's used and it would be really easy to go out of control compositionally, but he hasn't. And one of the tricks he's used as a good trick for all of us is when you use a different color, don't use it in just one place. Put a little bit of it elsewhere as well, in threes or more. If you look at the reds, there's a triangle of reds, three different places. Even the pink up in the upper left, there's 3 pinks, there's 3 turquoises, so forth and so on. So I think that's one of the secrets to holding such strong colors together as a group. And he has a focal area, which every image really benefits from as well, which is, the turquoise right near the center, the light blue, and those 3 gold leaf circles. So he's got all the essential design elements that you need, no matter whether you're painting representationally or abstract.
But the value change too, the good values. Dark.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one here. And let's see, what do we have? I don't know why I'm having issues moving to the next thing here. Oh, okay, here we go. Deep is with us today. Um, at first glance, you realize that Deep has a lot of experience with watercolor, with painting in general, probably as well, though I haven't seen anything else he might do. This is clearly an experienced painter who's comfortable with his medium, and that's a pleasure to see.
Thank you.
And speaking of unifying colors, if you look at the sky tones, they're repeated in the parking lot surface, even off in glints on the left side in the distance down near the horizon. And a little, even the coolness underneath the red awning tends to mimic that, as well as some other fading areas off on the right side of the building, in the second story and the first story. So he knows how to unify a painting through use of color throughout the image, which is a sign of an experienced artist. And in watercolor in particular, it's easy to let colors get out of control and get together and turn into mud. And if you look at the sky, he's got two colors that if you let them get together too much would do just that, but he hasn't. He skillfully kept the soft blue away from the soft yellow so that they work together and create this really nice atmospheric time of day that takes some skill to pull off. And he definitely has a focal area, as I was talking about before. And for me, I think that focal area is around that center tree and the upper part of that structure there. That's clearly, he's got more contrast there. He's got a little more color in general, sharper edges in general. And so he's clearly made that our visual home base as a focal area. Probably if I, and there's so much I like about this image, I won't go on and on about it, but just as a critique, and again, when you get to the skill level, it gets harder to critique, to be honest with you. But if I would say one or two things, I would say that focal area, I'm not sure I'm content with it sitting where it is in the overall image. It seems to be starting to get a little bit centered. And maybe if it was pushed just another inch to the right, it would be all it would take to take that uneasiness away from me, that it's so centered in the image. That's a minor, very, very minor criticism. He does a great job with his medium, and the distance on the left, when you look out on the left, it's like, wow, that's how you handle distance in twilight or near sunset. There's some really exciting color relationships and soft values off in the left there. That's really admirable. Does anyone else want to add anything?
The tree on the left-hand side looks very measured in the way the fronds are put on. And if you'll notice, the other one to the right is very natural looking.
Mm-hmm.
The one to the left looks very all staged. It doesn't look as natural as all the other trees in the composition. And it may have grown that way. I haven't seen them like that, but I just wonder if the person's on, if they could tell me if that's the way the tree actually was growing.
Yeah, so it's like a palm tree, and it was like all the leaves were almost equal.
That
Yeah.
is really something. I've never seen one like that. Interesting. Everything else is absolutely gorgeous. Just wasn't sure
Thank
about
you so
that
much.
one.
Yeah.
I wonder what this would look like without that tree at all, that particular tree. It just seems a little bit strong on that side. I mean, the way the other trees sort of lead into the focal point, that's really nice. And that big tree is, to me anyway, is a little bit distracting.
Okay.
Maybe if it was just softened a bit, would that help? The fronds
Right,
softened a
right.
little bit.
there are a lot of ways to subordinate something, and you could lower the value of that tree in general, or yeah, soften the edges more. They're pretty soft, actually.
I wonder if you could lift a little of the color off of that and just lighten it up.
Yeah, good points. Okay, we'll move on to the next one here. See if I can do this right. No. Okay. Alrighty, this is Katie's piece. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this, Katie?
This is another main painting of another road from Lake Sebago, again taken from a photograph. But I particularly like the photograph on this one that I took it from because it leads up and it leads to the light, like a lighted area coming from the dark to the light. But it's pastel, and I did it because I just enjoyed the movement, the trees, the road, and I love the colors. So I don't know what else you'd want to know, but
So it's pastel and on a white ground.
I can't remember, to be honest with you. It's a what is it? Color fix paper, the sanded paper, Art Spectrum. It was probably one of the colors. I like to use their deeper colors, but I don't know if that was one of those or not.
This is I consider you a strong colorist, which is
I love color.
yeah, you use it very well. I've seen a lot of your work on Instagram, a lot of cat paintings, and the color combinations and the skill you've combined oftentimes is really impressive. And this one is on this same caliber. And getting back to my note about moving colors around, the same color around the painting to unify it, this is another great example of that, where you've done just that. For example, if you look at the turquoise up in the sky around that white sky highlight, you find it also clear down in the bottom of the foreground, and it's scattered off to the left of that strong tree on the left margin and other places too. And then of course the obvious purple, which is one of the predominant colors, is spread all around the painting too, and the tree trunks on the ground here and there. And the orange on this big tree here in the shadow side of the tree, you've got some orange marks, and you find those again trailing away on the right side of the road and in the median of the road. So you're spreading these wonderful color combinations around the entire composition, and it makes a very unified image. And one of the other basic things I try to point out to people is to try to keep thinking of symmetry. And again, this is another good example of a symmetry in a design, where the strong road leading you from the foreground into the destination and the focal area in the middle ground or beyond, that road starts favoring the left, and it's got a nice little bit of a curve to it. So it's not boring, it's not a straight road. And then it doesn't let you see where it's going exactly by seeing itself. It takes you to a rise and then lets you imagine the rest of the journey off to the destination. And that focal area is in a nice area of the overall proportions of the image too. There's asymmetry in the two dominant trees. The one on the right is obviously closer and bigger, and then the one on the left. So there's so much nice variety snuck in here and there that it really helps. The focal area is in a great place. The color is unifying. There's great asymmetry going on too. And I might add that when you paint a scene in a forest, it can be really challenging, because anybody who's ever taken a photograph in a forest with deep shadows finds that their photograph turns out to have some really wild, unmanageable contrast between light and dark on the floor of the forest, on the floor of a road with the dappled light coming down. It can be a really terrible photo reference to use. So it's a real challenge to do that you have skillfully pulled off here, I think.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to add anything?
I think anytime you can put purple together with green, it works really well.
Thank you. I've been called a purplist. I like to use purple in shadows a lot.
It works with everything. Okay, we'll go on to the next piece here. Let's see who we have. And Bill, if you'll lead us with this image from Linda Gunther. Did I get this wrong? There's two Lindas with us today, I think.
Linda is on with us this morning.
Okay, this is
And,
Linda's, yes, Gunther's.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And my name is spelled with a Y.
Oh, sorry.
You might
I all had a
recognize.
great time at Schnorrmeyer's facility, and the Japanese bridge leading out to the island was one of the strong points in the landscape there, and a lot of people painted that from different angles. I like her choice of the composition, where she doesn't really show the left end of the bridge. She's only showing the bridge leading into the center of the painting. Then I think the water, you depicted the shadows of the tree and the shadows of the island, but maybe a little bit of horizontal strokes in the water to indicate the effect of air on the water would make the water read a little bit better. I particularly like the way you lead us into the picture, and then you show that distant hillside, the middle ground being lighter, and then the distant hillside out there, and then the sky again. So the reflection of the sky and the water is a nice touch. So all in all, I think it's a well done painting. You've kept the center of interest above the very center line of the painting. Maybe just a touch of something a little stronger in the foreground to sharpen up the foliage on those. You wouldn't have to do more than one or two leaves sharpened up to indicate the actual leaves, because there they are right on top of you. You know you'd see them well. And the fact that the tree in the very center of the picture, just off the center of the picture there, is not that way, that's well done. Those would be my comments about your painting.
Okay. That's a good suggestion.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
The shadows on the water, interesting. I'm not sure where that center shadow comes from now.
Yeah, this was done from my photo because that day it was raining and I was under a sheltered area.
Mm.
Then later on the sun came out and it was very dark underneath the bridge. So I think I should have done a little better on the water, but that's kind of what it was looking like, the darkness there.
One thing I wanted to point out is she chose to include people, and she didn't put much emphasis on them, but the fact that she put them in there really adds scale, because you wonder just how big is that bridge, especially if you have never been there. How big is that bridge? But she's helped us, and you don't even really think about it, but those people have solved that scale question by being included in the image. And they're just little, in a couple cases, just a couple marks indicating a person, and it does its job.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Go
like
ahead.
putting figures in if I can. I'm going to try it a little bit more this year.
I think they're always helpful. Okay, I'm sorry. We'll try to keep moving on here. And this is Dave Sapp. Would you like to tell us about this, Dave?
This painting I did about 20 years ago well before I joined COPA. And of course, it's done from a photograph of the ash cave. And if I were to redo this, I would do a whole lot of different stuff. I don't like the trees, the way I've depicted them. I'm glad I added the two little figures in the bottom down there, but I don't know. It was a fun painting to do. A lot of I think it was a lot of burnt sienna in it.
Mm-hmm. What's the medium?
It was oil.
Okay.
So where is this place, Dave? Is it in Ohio?
It's Ash Cave, I think you said. That's in the Hocking Hills.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That waterfalls gave me a fit trying to figure out how in the world to make it look like a waterfall without
Right.
being shot by a camera, and I never did really figure it out.
I think it's one of the better parts of the image, to be honest with you, because it gives me that effect of translucence, and yet there's such variation in there. It gives me the feeling of inconsistent amounts of water coming across. It seems more lifelike to me, at least. So I think that works pretty well, and that is a difficult effect to pull off, especially if you're plein air. Whew, wet into wet or any other medium, it can be really challenging. Probably the problem areas here that you're probably aware of, the series of rocks to the right, the values of them are so light that they just kind of jump out and are a distraction. The ones, there's a row of them, I'll call them a row. And then the other, and a similar problem, are the light rocks underneath and behind the bottom of the waterfall. And again, I don't understand the lighting on them based on the lighting elsewhere. And I start to even think that I'm looking through an arch into rocks at times. And my eye is really kind of confused there. Does anyone else want to add anything?
Figures in it, wonderful, I think. Like you were saying, they'd show you the scale, how huge it is.
Yes. You'd have no idea without people there. The tree that's fallen in the foreground, you go, well, maybe that's a massive tree, maybe not. I think we have time for one more. We can squeeze one more in here before our Zoom friends pull the plug on us here. I'm glad we got to this one. This is a very interesting piece by Don Reether. Human beings add an instant narrative. I tell you, you only need one in an image and you've got a narrative going, and the viewer's thinking about stories made up in their own mind based on the starting points you've given them. And then this rabbit is very well rendered running in the front. And something else I noticed, he's got such rhythmic interpretation of the, I think they're probably multiflora rose vines, which is a wild plant, the purplish, darker hoops they do that. It's very true to life in the Midwest. And they end up becoming a real rhythmic foil in the painting, though. I see it played out throughout the painting and maybe subtly in some of the background trees and the markings in the trees. It's interesting, and it's not distracting. And that's would be easy to get carried away with that and become a distraction, but I think it adds a real zest to the piece. The piece would be a lot less without all those arches dancing together. Strong vertical there, diagonal rather, I should say, coming from that right corner and going up high on the left margin of the image is really important to this whole piece. And a high horizon, with the horizon cutting the human being right in half. It goes right through the portion we can see of the human being. Really draws your eye to it, and that strong diagonal. And then the rabbit is not running horizontal. The rabbit is running diagonally too, at least by the shape of his body gives you the suggestion that he's been running along that edge of ground foliage, following a imaginary diagonal as well. So It's a very interesting composition with a great narrative going on. If I were to make a suggestion, it would be that, and again, I'm working from a photo and I don't see the real piece, so maybe this is happening in the real piece. I would probably suggest that you lower the value of the snow just a little bit, not to take away the strength of that overall triangular shape that inhabits the lower left part of the image. It's a powerful compositional device, but if you could lower that value just a little bit, it would give you the opportunity to inject a little bit of color in there. And once you can inject a little color into the snow, you can play wonderful games with opposing temperatures of cools and warms in snow that even though it's not a strong sunlit day and you don't have shadows per se, you can still do some wonderful area work with different temperatures of colors and a very light value still, and still maintain the dynamic integrity of the composition. And and if you lowered the values just a little bit, you could also play up the tracks of the rabbit, ironically. So you have two things going that would help you, because when you lower the value of the snow, then you can have a little bit of light hitting some of the tracks. So the tracks are not only formed by making darker values for impressions, but also sunlight or soft sunlight, in this case, hitting one side of those tracks. And it'd be a nice addition to the painting, I think. What does everyone else think?
I like the composition a lot. I agree with what you've already said. Yes, I would like to see where the rabbit has bounded into the snow before he's at the position he's at right now. And I can't tell at first whether he's running or laying in the snow. So I'd like to see a little bit of definition of the hindquarters, because I don't, maybe it's just a picture on the my iPad, but I can't tell that the form of his hindquarters, as if he's has jumped out of the snow. So that maybe could be a little more definite, but it's a great composition. And you didn't mention there's a figure, I think, up there in the field, isn't there? Is that a figure up there? That's kind of interesting too. I like it.
The hunter doesn't know that the rabbit actually got away from him.
It's a great narrative, isn't it?
I do see a little blue in the snow, and maybe sometimes cameras, you know, they reduce, they don't cover pale colors, so it might be actually in the painting.
I think we're running out of time here, so I'm very sorry if we didn't get to an image of yours. I know we didn't get to Vivian's and several other people's. My apologies for that. I'm sure Bill's going to schedule another critique down the road, and so we'll have more opportunities to get together.
I think what we might do, Rod, would be schedule another session for next Saturday. We'll accept a few more images from folks and continue on next week with picking up the ones that didn't make it this week.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add before we all say goodbye?
Thank you.
Bye.
Good job.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Yes, you too.
Stay safe.